Morning. If and everyone would like to stand if they're willing and able and join us for Blue Boat Home. Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now. Never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the light of the heavens and our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. And a special welcome to Todd Milne, who is actually leading us in our music today, so thank you so much. We've got an incredible day of talent ahead of us, so looking forward to that. I want to welcome all of you to this space, all of your, it sounds like it might be just a little hot. There we go. Check. Good. Perfect. Thank you. Welcome to everyone to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where we like to note our mission statement each week. We join together to create a nourishing liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world. Or as we like to say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Live justly. One of these days we will have a bylaw amendment deciding this issue. No, we won't. We'll do both. We'll live justly and work for justice. Very similar. One requires the other. Well, welcome again to each and every one of you. We want to embrace, as usual, all that you come with, all of your uniqueness, your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, your differences, all that helps make you who you are is welcome here this morning. And this includes, of course, those in the room with us, whether you are a regular attendee or joining us for the first time. We're glad to have you. And also all of those that are live streaming with us this morning. It's always great to know you're with us too. So thanks to everyone for being here. I don't have any announcements this morning, but I do have something I'm going to share with you that I wrote yesterday. I was just, this idea came to me, and it was so pressing that I said, I've got to write this down while I'm still thinking about it. So this is a poem that I wrote. So to speak. I'm not a poet.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Well, I can take your word for it.
Yes.
Our resident poet laureate. Anyway, this is fun. It has nothing to do with today's service. I'm just being a little narcissistic. I'm proud of it, so I wanted to share it with you. Okay? All right. This is a play on words about words that is entitled, Do You Understand? Okay? We don't say things stand because people stand. We say people stand because things stand. There are so many ways to stand. Do you understand? I put my book down on my nightstand, right next to my lampstand. Sometimes I grandstand, misunderstand, take a stand, stand together, stand with, and stand beside. Can you withstand hearing what you can't stand? Do you understand? We don't say things see because people see. We say people see because things see. There are so many ways to see. Do you see? Dogs see in grayscale. Bats see sound. Bees see colors I can't, and a blind man sees his friends, his favorite movies, and what's happening in the world just as good as most. I see in my mind's eye. I see what you're saying. I see the truth. Sometimes I see the future. Do you see? Mixing up pronouns may not be amusing, but it's so goddamn confusing. Whoever thought that he, she, and they could be so abusing? I won't throw a fit if you should say it, because it's the Queen's proper English. It's neutral. There's nothing wrong with it. It's all right. It's nice. It's good. But now they can mean one, too. Say what you want, but they means many, and sometimes one, too. Don't come undone, just have fun. People don't mean the things they say. People say the things they mean. They're not mean things, they just mean things. You may put ideas into my head, but please don't put words into my mouth. Just try to see what I'm saying. Just try to understand. Do you understand? Thank you. Thank you. Why don't we take a few moments to greet one another this morning? All right, it's always kind of rude of me to have you get up and greet one another and then you have to sit back down, but you know, it's just a taste of what is to come because you get to, as always, hang out with each other during social hour following the service, so please plan on staying for that. We are going to move forward now by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
During these particularly fraught times, I turn to reading poetry for comfort and inspiration. I also turn to writing to help me process what I'm thinking and feeling during these times. One poem that provides solace is this old favorite by Wendell Berry, The Peace of Wild Things. When despair for the world grows in me and I wake in the night at the least sound in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free.
All right. Stand if you're willing and able, and join us in singing We Shall Overcome, 169. And we're going to sing 1, 2, 4, 1 verses. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we'll walk hand in hand someday. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall live in peace someday. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, shall overcome someday.
All right, we're now going to kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our thoughts this morning. And we begin with a candle for church member Don Willingham, whose twin brother David passed away earlier this week. Please keep Don and his family in your thoughts at this time. And we also kindle a candle for the peoples of the world who are experiencing the worst of the war and violence that's going on these days, the people of Ukraine and Russia and Israel and Palestinian people in Iran. We also kindle a candle on behalf of the many frightened immigrants in our country, as well as those who have already been abused by a frightening system. Let's take a moment of silence as usual on behalf of those you might be thinking of, and as always, you're welcome to name them aloud at this time if you'd like. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. And we now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which helps sustain this community and our mission to the larger world.
One, two, three, 1, 2, 3. Broken glass, rusty nails, where wild violets grow. Say goodbye to the railroad, the mad dogs of summer, and everything that I know. What some men will do here for diamonds, what some men will do here for gold. Wounded, but they just keep on climbing. Sleep by the side of the road. There's a hole in the ladder, a fence we can climb. Mad as a hatter, you're thin as a dime. Out to the meadow, hills are a green. Sing me a rainbow, steal me a dream. Small town Napoleon shattered his knees, but he stays in the saddle for a road. And all his disciples, they shave in the gutter, and they gather what's left of his clothes. What some men will do here for diamonds, what some men will do here for gold. They're wounded, but they just keep on climbing. Sleep by the side of the road. Da 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 da. Ah, da da da. Ah, da da. Ah, da da da. Ah, da da. Ah, da da da.
I would like to invite any children to come forward for our Time for All Ages. Kids, did you like that song? Your dad sure did, okay. Well, did you know that Todd not only could sing that song and play the guitar, he actually made the guitar that he's playing. Isn't that cool? So ask him about it after the service. It's pretty interesting. All right, today's story is about Saint Francis. Long ago in the town of Gubbio, the people lived in constant fear. A great wolf had come down from the hills, and it was hungry and desperate. It attacked their animals and sometimes even the people. The townsfolk were angry and scared, and soon they began to argue among themselves about what they should do. Some thought the wolf must be destroyed. Others hid in their homes, hoping the danger would just go away. One day, St. Francis arrived in this village, and he saw the worry on everyone's faces and listened carefully as they told him about the wolf. But instead of joining in on their fear and anger, St. Francis asked a surprising question. Has anyone tried to understand why the wolf is acting this way? Has anyone spoken to him? The people shook their heads. How can you talk to a creature that only growls and attacks? They asked. St. Francis believed that peaceful words could reach even the most frightened hearts. So he walked out of the city gates, alone and unarmed, and called for the wolf. When the wolf appeared, it bared its teeth and its eyes grew wild. But St. Francis didn't run. He stood calmly and spoke softly. Brother Wolf, I see that you are hungry and afraid. The people here are frightened too. Your actions have hurt them, and their fear has hurt you. But maybe, if we listen to each other, we can find a new way. The wolf paused, surprised by the gentle words. For the first time, someone saw him not as a monster, but as a creature in need. St. Francis continued, if you promise not to harm the people or their animals, I will ask them to share food with you and treat you with respect. Will you try to live in peace with them? The wolf looked into St. Francis's eyes and saw kindness and understanding. Slowly, the wolf nodded in agreement. When St. Francis returned to the town with the wolf by his side, the people were amazed. He explained what had happened. We just listened to each other's fears and needs. We spoke with respect and hope. And now we can build trust instead of fear. From that day on, the wolf lived peacefully among the people of Gubbio. The townsfolk fed him, and the wolf never harmed anyone again. Through listening and gentle words, St. Francis helped everyone, human and wolf, find a way to live together in peace. And so the town of Gubbio learned that even in times of fear and anger, understanding and peaceful communication can heal and transform. Please join me in singing the children out to our play club.
Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
As we move into our time of meditation, I invite you to find a comfortable, receptive posture. Close your eyes if you wish. Put your feet on the floor and take some deep breaths as I lead you into the silence with these words from my poem entitled A Declaration. We are shattered bits of light, broken loose upon the universe. Remember this during the dark hours and in reflection. Have conversations with stones, stars, and wolves. Know that the moon is a patient listener, as is the sequoia and the oak, whose branches lift and dance with the winds, and whose roots, gnarled and curious, always seek true nourishment. Be not distracted from your own light, nor hide it under a bushel. The world is dark enough and needs your candle flicker. Laugh with the babbling brook and weep with the willow. Cast no shadow aside, for each has something to teach you. Know when to lift your burden and when to let it rest. Offer yourself over and over like water tumbling down a waterfall. That is how love cascades. Practice joy-giving like a songbird each morning and whisper a thank you to the stars each night. And so will your life be a blessing. Live it.
Wow, thank you so much. You got me so relaxed, I don't know if I can give my sermon now. It might even put me to sleep. I hope not. It's an important one. So after I left Christianity in my early 20s, a consequence of having studied philosophy, so be cautious, while in college, I turned to psychology to gain insight about myself and the world. And this occurred after visiting a Unitarian church for the first time and hearing its guest speaker, Phil Smith, a retired Unitarian minister turned Jungian psychotherapist. Although most of what he said honestly went completely over my head, something within me was stirring as he spoke about the soul as a living, crucial, and present reality in our lives that must be attended to. Christianity treats the soul as something that must be saved in this life, but really only has relevance after we're dead. But I soon learned that soul comes from the Greek word psyche, or psyche, the root of psychology. Psychology is the study of the soul. So studying psychology seemed to be the best way to redirect my religious yearnings. Years later, in fact, my dissertation, for which I earned my Doctor of Ministry, was entitled Pathway and Pathology: What Psychologists Say About Religion. For more than a decade, this course of study was about figuring myself out, and focused heavily on the collected works of Carl Gustav Jung, the psychologist that Phil Smith referred to in his sermon at the Unitarian Church. Jung's psychoanalytical psychology is all about delving deeply into the unconscious realm, both the personal and our collective unconscious, to learn about oneself and humanity by exploring our common myths, images, and archetypes. But in the end, this period of deep self-reflection didn't rid me of my hang-ups, but it did help me better accept who I am, to think less about myself, and to live a more meaningful and productive life that adds to the betterment of the world. So this period of breathing in, as I like to call it, of getting into myself, ended. And it was time to breathe out, to live my life, warts and all, hang-ups and all, and to help make a positive difference in the lives of others. And that's about the time that I discovered social psychologist Erich Fromm, who more than any other thinker has shaped my thoughts about myself, humanity, and the world. And to be clear, I have not pursued this interest as a psychologist or a psychotherapist, but as a philosopher, seeking greater truth and understanding, and as a deeply religious person concerned for the well-being of my soul and the souls of others. Nor am I the first Unitarian minister to take a strong interest in Fromm. My own Unitarian mentor, Reverend Douglas Gallagher, it turns out, I learned a short time ago, actually wrote his dissertation on Fromm. And one of Fromm's best friends was the renowned Unitarian theologian James Luther Adams, who translated Fromm's book, The Dogma of Christ, from German into English. And during one of their late-night conversations, Adams asked, "Eric, what makes you tick?" Fromm responded, "Jim, I think I know the answer to that question. It's the biblical prophets. They saw the meaning of history in the demand for justice." It is a concern, it is this concern for health, the health and welfare of the individual, of humanity, and of human society that most attracts me to Fromm. As a psychologist, however, he doesn't want to fix us, but enable us to fix ourselves by helping us to better understand the unconscious unconscious forces that drive us so that we can direct them more productively. Fromm, who was Jewish, left Germany in 1934, less than a year after Hitler came into power, having seen the proverbial writing on the wall. And after coming to the U.S., he wrote numerous books over his career, most of which deal with the social and psychological causes of authoritarianism and how we ought to best respond to it. His very first book, Escape from Freedom, published in 1941, suggests that given the choice between freedom and belonging, most people will choose belonging, even if it means succumbing to the beliefs, the desires, and the control of others. One of his later books, The Anatomy of Human Destructiveness, published in 1973, concludes with lengthy sections on Adolf Hitler and his SS commander, Heinrich Himmler. So you can see Fromm continued to work to understand the psychological and social forces that have given rise to some of the most oppressive and destructive conditions in human history, including the Holocaust, to show us how to prevent them from happening in the future. That was his great quest. How can these things happen and what can we do about it? Yet here we are today, living at a time when authoritarianism is again on the rise. According to the Global State of Democracy Institute, for example, democracy has increasingly weakened each year since 2016. Given the election of Donald Trump and the subsequent breakdown of the separation of powers in the world's oldest and once greatest democracy, I'm guessing that this trend isn't going to end anytime soon. And this is where Fromm's insights are extraordinarily cogent. The entire thesis of Escape from Freedom, originally titled Fear of Freedom, is that human psychology is defined by our fundamental and conflicting needs for both freedom and belonging. They conflict because to fully belong among our family, our friends, our society, we must sometimes compromise, conceal, and contain ourselves, which means that we are not wholly free to express ourselves. To fully express ourselves freely means we risk rejection. We may be excluded from the very groups whose acceptance we seek. And most of us think we prefer, or like to think that we prefer, freedom, because that sounds nobler, doesn't it? But history suggests that people are far more willing to relinquish their freedom and to take freedom away from others in order to gain social security, standing, and belonging. Fromm says, freedom is the condition for the full growth of a person, for one's mental health and one's well-being. Its absence cripples mankind and is unhealthy. Still, we often choose leaders who have, as Fromm further explains, all too frequently used the slogan that they are leading their people in the battle for freedom, when in reality their aim has been to enslave them. But such deception is usually obvious, and too many of us eagerly accept the ruse so that we don't have to admit, even to ourselves, our own cowardice in the face of genuine freedom. The most common means of reconciling these conflicting needs, albeit unhealthy and destructive, is what Fromm calls sadomasochism. A relationship based on one person or group dominating another person or group that willingly submits. The sadist controls, the masochist submits. Together they form an authoritarian relationship. Both the sadist and the masochist need another being to complete them, as it were, Fromm says. The sadist makes another being an extension of himself. The masochist makes himself the extension of another being. Both seek a symbiotic relationship because neither has a center in oneself. While it appears that the sadist is free of his victim, he needs the victim in a perverse way. I'm reminded here of Trump, who frequently refers to his rallies as love fests, during which he often rambles his unprepared, unfiltered stream of consciousness before crowds of adoring followers who applaud his every word. Trump even refers to his January 6, 2021 rally, during which he encouraged devotees to storm the nation's capital, as a day of love. And we must all learn to love ourselves, to be happy and to be healthy-minded, but not to the exclusion or to the detriment of others. But to the sadist, all love must be directed back to oneself, which makes the authoritarian feel connected to others, but only in as much as the love fest is a love fest of oneself. It's not two-way. Everybody loves me, therefore we love each other. So a key point that is not to be missed is that those on the masochistic side of the equation are not victims, but willing participants in this extremely unhealthy and unproductive way of resolving this fundamental conflict between freedom and belonging that we all face every day. The dance that we all do every day. Together, because we never fully belong and we're never fully free. Right? That's the common human angst. But together, sadists and masochists again form an authoritarian relationship in which the will and the ideas of the leader must never be questioned. And we saw this past week after Trump's claim that the bombing of Iran had obliterated its nuclear facilities came into question. Even without sound evidence to the contrary, his underlings, like Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, began attacking the media for contradicting the president. We saw the same thing during the campaign when Trump claimed without evidence that Haitian immigrants were eating people's pets in Springfield, Ohio. Even after admitting it was untrue, on national television, his running mate, J.D. Vance, defended the claim, saying, "If I have to create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do. Even if I have to make up stories, and off with the head of anyone who tells the emperor he has no clothes." This, however, is just the sort of behavior that might eventually become this administration's undoing. As Fromm says, the half-insane leader is often the most successful one until his lack of objective judgment, his rage reaction against consequences and setbacks, his need to keep up the image of omnipotence may provoke him to make mistakes, which lead to his destruction. So I'm personally keeping my fingers crossed on that one. Although controversial, many psychologists have publicly, like when I think one article was signed by over 240 psychologists, publicly labeling Trump a malignant narcissist. A condition based on Fromm's discussion of what he terms malignant forms of narcissism and necrophilia that contribute to a syndrome of decay or death that he says represents the quintessence of evil. It is at the same time the most severe pathology and the root of the most vicious destructiveness and inhumanity. Although the ethics of publicly diagnosing an individual have been called into question, the claim is out there, and it is now something that we must consider. In the book Rocket Man, Nuclear Madness and the Mind of Donald Trump, psychologist John Gartner writes, Trump suffers from malignant narcissism, a diagnosis that is far more toxic and dangerous than mere narcissistic personality disorder because it combines narcissism with three other severely pathological components: paranoia, sociopathy, and sadism. The closest thing psychiatry has to describing a truly human monster. That's pretty harsh. And I haven't cited the worst of it. But whether it's right for mental health experts to publicly diagnose an individual, even if compelled to warn us about such a figure, and I would understand the ethical tension in that decision, or whether or not they are right in their diagnosis, because some psychologists disagree. That there is something terribly wrong with this man should be obvious to almost anyone. This means the situation that we're in isn't about Donald Trump. The situation we're in isn't about one person, but about why so many people, so many good people, intelligent people, ordinary people, some of whom are my friends, have chosen to overlook such serious concerns and put such a flawed figure into power. It's not about Trump as much as he would love it to be. It's about us, the society that created the conditions for someone like him to rise to power. In his 1955 book, The Sane Society, which probably should have been entitled The Insane Society, Fromm writes, this book deals not with individual pathology, but with the pathology of normalcy, particularly with the pathology of contemporary Western society. As a whole, that is, our society is not well because we have normalized insane behavior and thinking. We presume, slim as it might be, that the majority of roughly 350 million Americans can't be wrong. But no matter how many believe and behave alike, they are wrong, because they have widely come to accept what Fromm calls tendencies which are directed against life. That's insane. Which form the nucleus, he says, of severe mental illness, and which can be said to be the essence of true evil. He calls this the necrophilious orientation, the passion to transform that which is alive into something unalive, to destroy for the sake of destruction, to the exclusive interest in all that is purely mechanical. It is the passion to tear apart living structures. In The Anatomy of Human Destructiveness, Fromm outlines three types of social systems, ranked from the least to the most life-affirming. The most destructive is the necrophilious orientation, the death-loving orientation, characterized by a fascination with death, control, mechanical order, embodied, he argues, in Nazi Germany, where destruction and domination were ends in themselves. Slightly less destructive is the authoritarian system, marked by submission to power, rigid hierarchies, and the suppression of individual freedom. Soviet communism under Stalin is cited as an example. The least destructive and most hopeful is what he calls the revolutionary humanistic orientation, which values life, growth, creativity, and the unfolding of human potential. How'd you like to live in that society? Fromm points to certain utopian socialist movements and to aspects of democratic humanism as imperfect and inspiring examples. Now, each of these systems reflects not only political structures, but more importantly, the psychological character of the people within them, showing how the way we structure society is deeply tied to who we are and who we choose to become as individuals, right? Our governments are a reflection of us as a whole. So that's a clue as to where we begin to try to turn things around. When it comes to the two orientations, the life-affirming and the death-seeking, Fromm frequently points out that we are not necessarily ruled by one or the other of these syndromes, and that the average person is a blend of both. And since society is a reflection of who we are as a people, it too is a blend of both. The question before those of us in the U.S. at this moment is which one is most dominant? Is ours a revolutionary, humanistic, authoritarian, or worst of all, necrophilious society? I think most of us would agree that ours is not a society primarily based on the promotion of life, growth, creativity, independence, human welfare, progress, and happiness, along with other life-affirming qualities, and therefore does not have a revolutionary humanistic orientation as much as many of us, I'm sure, wish it did, which leaves us with either the authoritarian or the necrophilious options. As noted, we have in recent months, gravitated towards authoritarian leadership by considering what's been happening in the U.S. for decades. I must conclude, like many, ours is a necrophilious society. During World War II, the U.S. invented and deployed, the only nation ever to have done so, an atomic bomb, 2 of them, and has since engaged in the mass proliferation of nuclear weapons. It has engaged in unnecessary and unjust wars, as in Vietnam and Iraq, under false pretenses. It has greatly contributed to, yet done little to address climate change, and has often prevented others from addressing what may be the worst existential crisis or threat to life in human history. Donald Trump is currently withdrawing funding from green energy programs and other environmental endeavors, while advocating for an increased use of oil and coal. His necrophilia is so malignant that he even signed an executive order forbidding the federal government from purchasing paper straws. That's destructive. Last year, the governor of Florida signed a law that makes lab-grown or cultivated meat illegal in his state. Meat, that is, that doesn't require the death and suffering of animals. We are amidst the 6th period of mass extinction on our planet, yet the United States lacks the will to do anything meaningful about it and often seeks to prevent others from doing so. As a society, the education of our children in the U.S. is also of low priority, if not resisted, as kids must often attend underfunded and outdated school buildings. And teachers face large classes that make it difficult to teach. Meanwhile, the exorbitant cost of higher education have become an obstacle to some young adults and a modern form of indentured servitude for others. We have consistently refused to establish a humane healthcare system that adequately provides for all of our citizens. We refuse to remove military-style guns from our streets, even though they are being used to kill us, including our children, in our schools, in their schools, on campuses, workplaces, concerts, churches, shopping malls, grocery stores, homes, and a mounting list of other places. Today, we have allowed our authoritarian president to convince many of us that the worst and most dangerous problem we face is immigrants. Mostly those from Latin America, whether they are here legally or not, whether they are students, workers, or even toddlers and infants. And now, whether or not they are American citizens in some cases. We're permitting masked men to pull them off of our streets without cause, deport them without due process, and incarcerate them in inhumane conditions and in foreign gulags. All of this, even after we had already witnessed Trump order the separation of thousands of children from their parents, imprison them in cages where they were made to sleep on cold, hard floors with nothing more than an aluminum blanket, some of whom still have not been reunited with their families. Yet this overinflated concern is minuscule compared to the impacts of so many other issues, like the growing housing crisis. Today, millions of Americans can no longer afford to pay rent or mortgages, and millions of workers can no longer afford to live in the communities they serve. There's a growing number of homeless people living and sleeping on the streets of every community in our country, from the smallest towns to the biggest cities. Some communities, like ours here in Spokane, are almost solely focused on the symptoms, trying to figure out where can we let them sleep, if anywhere. Yet do little to solve the housing shortage that is the root of this inhuman crisis. Yet even those who do have homes have to worry, am I next? The housing demand is causing property values to rapidly rise, which means property taxes are skyrocketing, threatening to price longtime homeowners out of their own homes, especially those living on fixed incomes. Today, almost 30% of American adults are house poor, spending 30% or more of their income on housing. A nightmare that makes obtaining a dream house out of the question for more Americans than ever. But when it comes to Mexicans crossing the border to take your jobs and to eat your pets, don't worry. The government has you covered. Even our failing infrastructure is a sign of the decay caused by our mass necrophilia, as is the persistent unwillingness to invest in our country's future. Currently, the U.S. government is working only to prevent programs, change, and progress, not creating, transforming, and moving forward, which requires a biophilious, life-affirming orientation. And that's the good news. That's how we survive the malignant narcissism and the necrophilia indicative of this age, by nurturing our innate love of life, which is stronger than the appeal of death and destruction. Fromm says that love of life is so much a biologically given quality in mankind that one should assume that aside from a small minority, it can always come to the fore. Even if it's absent, it can always come to the fore because it's so strong in us. Elsewhere, he says that the life instinct is our primary tendency, not the death instinct. The death instinct only develops when we lack certain conditions in our societies and in our lives. Warm and affectionate contact with others during infancy. Freedom in the absence of threats. Teaching by example rather than preaching. My bad. Of the principles conducive to inner harmony and strength. Guidance in the art of living. Stimulating influence of and response to others, a way of life that is genuinely interesting. That's the focus these are the focuses our society should be based on. On the other hand, he says, as long as a person's energy is taken up by the defense of one's life against attacks or to ward off starvation, love of life must be stunted and necrophilia is fostered, which means another important social condition for the development of biophilia lies in the abolition of injustice. If we are to affirm life, we must abolish injustice. Injustice against the environment, injustice against immigrants, injustice against people living on the streets, workers, homeowners, you name it. As Unitarians, a liberal religion rooted in a biophilious orientation, this makes our work a little easier because we are required only to fulfill our basic instincts towards life, which includes all the qualities that I've mentioned: care, creativity, freedom, respect, purpose, progress, meaning, justice. Yet it is a syndrome that's also fundamental to all religions, as it should be, because people who create religions are living beings, and this is the primary tendency of life, the primary instinct in all people, so long as it is not thwarted. Great as are the differences between Taoism, Buddhism, prophetic Judaism, and the Christianity of the Gospels, Fromm says, these religions have one common goal: to arrive at the experience of oneness, not by regressing to animal existence, but by becoming fully human. Oneness with man, oneness between man and nature, and oneness between man and other men. In fact, he says the purpose of all these religions can be summarized in one sentence: it is the goal of mankind to overcome one's narcissism. Today there is tremendous social and psychological pressures like fear, mistrust, and anger that bring out some of the worst necrophilious tendencies in us, leading to authoritarianism, to groupthink, to hostility, and to injustice. So we must firstly quiet these tendencies within ourselves by nurturing our innate love of life. Then work to nurture the same instinct that is primary in all people, so that we can work together to heal instead of hurting our planet, to prosper together instead of impoverishing one another, to build together instead of bombing one another, to create together instead of destroying what we all need, and to love one another instead of fearing and hating each other. This all seems overwhelming, yet everyone who is alive knows this is true, for it is the truth of life itself. The urge to live, to grow, to create, to unite, and to live in harmony with the whole of life. This is what all life seeks. Life wants to live, and the living think little about death in the afterlife. Life is our present reality, not something, as far as we know, that will last forever. It's happening right now. And we nurture and sustain it, as I discovered many years ago, by learning how to care for our soul and for the souls of others and for the soul of our nation and for the soul of our world. Thank you.
All right. Check, check, check. Get this microphone back on. Check. A little more. Check, check, check. Okay. If you could stand to stand, we're going to sing Stand By Me. And we don't have the words up here, but I think everybody knows it. So. Thank you.
Our benediction is adapted from Cheryl Block. As we go forward into this frightening, exhilarating, confusing, miraculous world, may we offer our comfort to the afflicted, our love to those who are lonely or afraid, and our wish for all to be safe and for all to grow in strength and courage. Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and shalom.
Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom, Shalom. There must be some kind of way out of here, said the joker to the thief. There's too much confusion, I can't get no relief. Businessman there, drink my wine. Plowman, dig my earth. None would level on the line. Nobody up in his worth. Hey, yeah. No reason to get excited. The thief, he kindly spoke. There are many here among us who feel that life is but a joke. But you and I, we've been through that, and this is not our fate. So let us not talk falsely now. The hour's getting late. Tower, princes kept the view, while all the women came and went, barefoot servants too. Outside in the cold distance, a wildcat did growl. Two riders were approaching, and wind began to howl. Thank you.